Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama.
So I'm back for another Have Your Say video.
For goodness sake!
And this is for UK vs. the World Season 3, Episode 3. So today we're going to be recapping what happened in the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll where you at home voted on whether you agreed with the outcome of the episode. And we'll be talking about a little bit of light drama to do with Melinda Verga calling out unaired harsh judges' critiques. Fontana reacts to the backlash about her lip sync reaction, and Sminty Drop addresses some past controversy. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. So we find out that the maxi challenge for this week is the Snatch Game, which I actually really like Snatch Game. I know it can be a little bit kind of hit and miss, mostly miss these days, but there can be some really good ones. But we find out there's a bit of a twist to the Snatch Game format, and it's called the Miss Snatch Game Pageant. So it's framed a bit like a beauty pageant. So there's a bit where they have to talk to the judges, there's a swimsuit section and stuff like that. So they're kind of modeling it on a beauty pageant, but with Snatch Game characters. Before we get into the actual Snatch Game itself, I just want to quickly say,
Oh, bitch, here we go.
Personally, I really did not like this format. I don't just want to be a hater all the time, but I appreciate they were trying to do something a bit different. And I do wonder if they switch the format up to not only keep it fresh, but also to make it a bit easier for the queens that don't speak English as a first language, because that is actually a really big hurdle. I mean, I do speak several languages myself, not to brag, but 6.
Literally, no one cares.
But I will say, if I had to, for example, in Spanish, I speak Spanish. If I had to do Snatch Game in Spanish, so not only an impersonation, but in a different language, and volley with the judges and all the rest of it, that is really hard. So I can 100% agree and see why they're trying to help the queens that don't speak English as a first language. But I just think this format really did not work. And even someone like Jinx Monsoon, who is a complete master, the female version, is that what you call it? A mistress of Snatch Game. I think even Jinx would have struggled to make this format funny. So yeah, I just really think this was a massive swing and a big miss. And I feel like RuPaul did sort of address that, because she even said at the beginning, this is the first and potentially last Snatch Game pageant. So I feel like maybe they also knew that it might not work. Okay, so let's go through the Snatch Game characters themselves. I'll go through them in order in which they first came in. And first up was Kate Butch, and she was doing Humpty Dumpty. I think that could be a fun character to pick, you know, picking someone from a nursery rhyme, because you can kind of do whatever you want. I could see the direction she was going, but personally, I didn't think it was as funny as I thought she was going to make it, because Kate is funny, but I just think there was a lot of jokes that could have been made that weren't. But anyway, I probably would give it a just okay, because I don't think it was that funny, but it wasn't terrible either. In the Have Your Say poll, you said 51.3% for just okay, so over half. Then almost the same, so 45.8% for yay, so maybe you liked it a bit more than I did. And then 3% for nay. Next up, we had Mariah Balenciaga doing Jackie Harry. I'll be honest, I'm not hugely familiar with Jackie Harry. I think I know the name, but I don't really know much about her. I would say in general, as a rule, I think even if you don't know who someone is, you should still find the Snatch Game funny, because it's the way the person explains it. Because if you're required to know every single thing about a person in order to find it funny, to me, that's not a very great Snatch Game character. For example, we've had other Snatch Games, like, for example, when Jinx did Little Edie from Grey Gardens, not many people really knew who that was, but she still made it funny without knowing who it was. So I do think you have to think about it from that way. I think Mariah did a decent job, though. She made me laugh a few times, and I got the character that she was doing, and I could understand it without necessarily knowing all the references. It wasn't laugh out loud, but it was fine. So I'd give it a just okay, going towards the yay. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 69.9% for yay, so well over half, 28.8% for just okay, and then 1.3% for nay. Next up was Zahira Zapanta doing Jessica Alves. Now, Jessica Alves, from what they did explain it briefly, but I knew more from before they transitioned, they were known as like the human Ken doll. And it was this person who'd had lots of plastic surgeries to look more like a Ken doll, but they've since transitioned. So they've got a different name now. But I vaguely did know, I have seen a few news appearances and things when they were back before they transitioned. I could see what Zahira was going for, and she obviously had the prosthetics of the nose and everything. I just think it could have been pushed way further. I personally don't think I laughed that much. The jokes were not that strong. So I probably would give it either just okay, but more towards the nay side. In the Have Your Say poll, you obviously did not like it very much. 68.9% for nay, which is almost 69%. 29.7% for just okay, and then only 1.7% of you voted yay. Hello everyone, it is I, the world-renowned Dr. Claudia Pousset. Matt called me because he realized when he was editing this video that he actually forgot to mention the Fontana's Snatch Game. I don't know how he did that. In German, you would call him a Dummkopf. I don't know how you say that in English, but that is what he is. So I am here to talk about the Fontana. So Fontana was doing the Carmen Miranda, and she had all of the fruit on her head and everything, so she looked like her, but I think that she relied too much on the fruit and doing the maracas, and there was no real jokes, so I probably would say it was either a just okay, but more towards the nay. And in the Have Your Say poll, you voted 68.6% for the nay, which apparently is very close to the 69, 29.7% for the just okay, and then only 1.7% for the yay. So I must now go for a cat nap, or as we say, just a nap, because I am very tired. But thank you, and I will leave you back to the incapable hands of Matt. Next up was Sminty Drop doing the Big Bad Wolf. I think this is a great character to pick personally because you can obviously do whatever you want. It's a bit like picking Humpty Dumpty. You can just literally make up a character. And there's been so many Snatch Games now where people have done that and been successful. So I think at this point, because there's so many characters that have been done, you always have to try and find something different. So I don't mind people picking these random, obscure, not real characters. That being said, I really liked Sminty. I thought she was very funny. She seemed very prepared. You don't even need to know what the Big Bad Wolf necessarily is because she had jokes, she had comebacks. I really enjoyed it and I think she embodied the character. I will just say what she did was just put on a very strong northern accent and made it more of just a northern woman who was, I guess, the Big Bad Wolf. But to me, that was funny, so I would give it a yay. Interestingly, you only gave it 64.8% for yay, but then 31.8% voted just okay, so maybe you didn't like it that much. Maybe it was just because I guess she was playing Sminty, but a slightly different version of Sminty. I personally still thought it was funny, though, in a Snatch Game of not great Snatch Games. And then 3.4% for nay. The next queen up was Minty Fresh, who played a unicorn. I think, again, this is fine to pick a mythical creature. I think that's fine. There's a lot of humor to be had with stuff like that. But yeah, Minty just completely missed the mark. She did say she's not a comedy queen. I think this format sucked, so I don't necessarily blame her for that. But I did think there's a few more jokes she could have made. But yeah, this was really bad, unfortunately. So I would have to give this a nay. And I think you agreed. I will have to get these certified to make sure that I'm correct. But the results say 91.9% of you, so almost 92% voted nay. 7.2% for just okay, and then such a tiny amount for yay that I can't actually see it. After that was Godlin doing Cardi B. I think Cardi B is a good character to pick because she has got such a crazy personality. She's got so many different isms that you can pick up on. I personally did think it was funny, but more because Godlin was just being over the top and she was being very much herself. And she's very funny and everything and very likable. But I don't think it was necessarily a great impersonation of Cardi B. It kind of had a few different things, but it was funny. So I would give her a yay because I think she did a decent job with what she could. Oh, and by the way, Godlin did comment on my video from last week about UK versus the world, so maybe she watches my videos. I checked, it is her actual official YouTube channel. So if you are watching Godlin, hey girl, hey! But moving on to the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you were a bit split on it because only 55.9% voted yay, so only just over half, then 36% for just okay, and then 8.1% for nay. Then penultimately, we had Serena Morena doing Charo. Now, we all know Charo, she's been on the US version before. She has been done on Snatch Game before as well. She's got such an amazing personality. She's so sort of big and everything. She's, the coochie and everything. I just think Serena could have really pushed this so much further. It was, to me, almost like watching Charo, but kind of Charo when she's half asleep or something. I could see where she was going with it, but it just was not very Charo. So unfortunately, I would have to give this a nay. This would not get the coochie coochie. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 74.2% for nay. So almost 3/4 of you did not like this. 23.7% for just okay. And then only 2.1% for yay. And finally, we had the only Naomi. And the character she did was Gerhard H, and the H stands for Hitler, and the character is a fictional gay brother of Hitler. I think this was a really interesting character to pick because obviously it's made up, and we've seen people do these kind of controversial characters before, but kind of like a family relative. For example, Kim Chi did, I think it was Kim Jong-un's sister, something like that. And obviously Kim Jong-un being the dictator of North Korea. So I think this has been done before. And it's also kind of a political statement, but it's a way of making fun of someone who did awful, atrocious things. So I personally think that was actually quite a smart choice. In terms of the performance itself, I actually thought Naomi did a really good job. She was funny. I thought the character was funny. She was mocking, obviously, these right-wing people. I do think that she could have pushed it a bit further, though. I think there were a few times where the jokes didn't quite land and stuff. Maybe that was also because of a language barrier, I don't know. So I would give it a yay, but it would be a soft yay towards just okay. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 56.8% for yay, so over half, but still 37.3% for just okay, and then 5.9% for nay. So I asked you whose Snatch Game, that's me snatching, whose performance would get a slay, as in the best Snatch Game, and you voted 27.5% for Sminty Drop. However, only marginally behind that was Godland with 25%, and then Mariah came in third with 21.2%. I do agree. I think in a Snatch Game of pretty not great performances, I would say overall, I think Sminty was the best because I probably laughed the most at hers, but she did have the most fully realized character compared to someone like Godland, who I also really liked, but I don't think her character was as fully realized as Sminty's was potentially. Okay, so let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was Let Them Eat Cape. And that's cape, C-A-P-E, as in the thing that billows behind you. Something that I wish I had right now so I could swish it. Although...
A few moments later.
But here is my cape. I am teaming with the theme. Does anyone else ever just put on a blanket like a cape when they were a child or when they're 35 years old and just like a little bit of swooshing action? Because that's what I'm doing for the rest of this runway.
It's fashion? Is it wait, what is it fashion? It's fashion.
Okay, so now I am suitably caped up. Let's go into the runways. The first queen up was Minty Fresh. I loved this look. I thought it was really clean. Loved the cape. I thought all of the details were meticulously done. The makeup was also amazing. This is definitely a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 83.5% for yay. I would 100% agree with that. Or 83.5% agree. 13.6% for just okay. I don't agree with that. Definitely a yay. And then 3% of you crazy cape haters out there voted for nay. Next up was Sminty Drop. I loved this. I thought it was so cool. I loved it with the candle. It's kind of like the lady in the mansion type thing. Black and white always looks good. I love the veil across the face. I thought the outfit was meticulously done. The cape was really cool. Definitely a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, this actually got less than the previous look. I don't know. Maybe I thought they were about the same. 82.2% for yay, so still the majority. Then 16.9% for just okay. But then only 0.8% of you voted for nay. So I feel like that's just one person who really does not like this look. After that, we had Serena Morena. I really liked that she was celebrating her culture and heritage of Mexico with La Santa Muerte, but I just think the execution was a little bit sloppy, as the judges said. I also thought the makeup was a little bit rough. Unfortunately, I would have to give this a nay, although I really appreciate the idea behind it. Also, can I just say how ridiculous this is that I'm giving things a nay while literally wearing an IKEA or redacted brand blanket on me. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 66.5% for nay, so obviously you did not like it, 28.4% for just okay, and then 5.1% for yay. Next up was Mariah Balenciaga. Now, she said the inspiration behind this was a photo shoot that Grace Jones did with a parachute. Personally, I looked this up because I wasn't aware of this particular reference. I do have a PhD in fashion, but I don't have a PhD in fashion history. I couldn't really find a look that I thought matched this, though. So maybe someone in the comments can let me know if there's a particular look that I'm missing, but this is what I found in a Google search. In terms of this outfit from Mariah, I really did not like this, unfortunately. I think it looked like a fitted bed sheet because of that, and maybe that is what it is. It, to me, just looked really not very good. And I think Mariah normally looks so put together and polished. I was surprised at how not good this is. Unfortunately, this would be an A. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you are less harsh than me.
I just don't get why people don't like me. Yeah, because you're a bitch.
Because you voted 53.8% for Just Okay. Then it was actually yay with 25%, but then still 21.2% for nay. But yeah, I was surprised because this was definitely a nay in my books. Next up, we had Kate Butch. I liked this outfit. I thought it was obviously a nod to sort of Sherlock Holmes and everything, very famous British figure. I thought it actually fit her really nicely. Maybe it was just a touch short in the body, or there was just something, I think the proportions were slightly off. But in terms of the actual outfit, I think it looked fine. It was nothing sort of to write home about as we haven't seen before, but I think it was perfectly nice. So I would give it a just okay verging into a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, it was 56.8% for just okay, 30.9% for yay, I would agree with that, and then 12.3% for nay. After that is The Only Naomi. I thought this was nice. It's kind of giving Greek goddess. It's all just white. I mean, it is a large piece of fabric as the cape with then a corset. So I will say, obviously, it is slightly simpler and we've seen this sort of thing before. But is it a nice look? Yes. But is it groundbreaking, something we haven't seen before? No. But I would probably give it a yay towards just okay. In the Have Your Say poll, I think you also felt the same way because it was almost pretty split between the two. Yay got 48.3% and then just okay got 44.1%. So it was almost a 50-50 split, and then 7.6% for nay. Next up is Zahira Sapanta. I thought it was a cool concept for the look, and the moustache and everything looked really nice. There was something about it was just, I don't know, it was slightly confusing. I think some of the patterns clashed, and I know that was the point. There was something about it that wasn't quite as, I don't know, editorial as it could have been. There was a few things that could have been refined, but it's fine. But I probably would give it a just okay. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 58.9% for just okay, so well over half, 28.4% for yay, and then 12.7% for nay. Then penultimately we have Fontana. I thought this was really cool, but pretty in pink, and it was a different way of doing cape. It wasn't a traditional cape. It's more a bow, and then sort of the back bit is part of it. I thought it was a different way of doing it. It's pretty. We've seen this sort of thing slightly done before, but I would definitely give it a yay towards a just okay. Also, can we just talk about how crappy that fan was that they had on the runway? It literally felt like someone just had some cheap hairdryer and they were just doing that, because there was not much billowing going on over there. I mean, even my cape is billowing a little bit more. In the Have Your Say poll, you obviously liked it, though. You said 80.9% for yay, 16.9% for just okay, and then 2.1% for nay. And finally, we had Godland. I loved this look so much. Those colors looked amazing. The outfit was immaculately done. Those fish, the details, the headpiece, everything was just so meticulously done. The cape was beautiful, the way it draped and everything, even with that crappy blowy fan thing, it still looked so regal. Those colors are lovely, and the way she did it, the makeup, everything, that was incredible. This cape definitely gets a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, I think you agreed, because 96.6%, think about that, that is almost 97% of you voted yay, 3.4% of you voted for just okay, and then by the looks of it, I don't think anybody voted nay, because why would you? Because you would be crazy. So I asked you, whose cape gets a slay, and you voted 54.7% for Godland, 24.2% for Sminty Drop, and then 10.6% for Minty Fresh, and not that far behind was Fontana with 7.6%. I definitely agree. To me, no one came close to Godland's look, really. She was definitely by far the slay. It was absolutely amazing. Okay, so let's move on. We find out that the winner for this week is Godland. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the winner? You said 59.3% for no and 40.7% for yes. So actually more than half of you voted no. So I then said, of that more than half of you who said no, who do you think should have won instead? And you voted 51.4% for Sminty Drop, 24.3% for Mariah Balenciaga, and then 16.4% for the Only Naomi. So then we find out that the bottom 3 queens of the week are Fontana, Minty Fresh, and Serena Morena. I asked you, do you agree with the bottom 3? And you said 74.6% for yes, so almost 3/4, and then 25.4% said no. So of that, around a quarter of you who said no, I said, who do you think should have been the bottom 3? And you voted Minty Fresh, Serena Morena, and then Zahira Zapanta. So you would have swapped out Fontana for Zahira. Okay, so then obviously Godland as the winner gets to use the Chippy Tea to save one of the bottom 3 from lip syncing, and she chooses to save Serena Morena. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who would you have saved using the Chippy Tea? You said Fontana, 68.6%, then Serena Morena with 25%, and then Minty Fresh with 6.4%. I agree. I would have given it to Fontana because I think looking at the competition, she has been a front runner so far and very strong. And I would also say that although all 3 of them did badly in the Snatch Game, I think Fontana did slightly less bad than the other 2. So Fontana and Minty then lip synced the song Angel of My Dreams by Jade, who was the guest judge this week. And we find out Fontana is announced as the winner of the lip sync, which means unfortunately Minty Fresh is eliminated. Also, we'll talk about this a bit more later, but when Fontana was announced as safe, there was a very dramatic moment when she fell on the floor, cried. RuPaul looked a little bit like she wasn't that impressed, and also Fontana did sort of like a shimmy little dance before going off stage, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won the lip sync in your opinion? And you said 75.8% for Fontana and 24.2% for Minty Fresh. Okay, so moving on to the final 2 questions. Question 9 was, based on what we've seen so far, who do you think will win the season? Godland came out by far on top with 77.5%. Then it was Kate Butch with 13.1%, and then it was Fontana with 7.6%. And then on a slightly different note, question 10 was, based on what we've seen so far, who do you want to win the season? Now, the percentages did change a bit, but Godland still came out on top with 41.1%. Then it was Kate Butch with 22.5%, and then the others were pretty split, but Fontana did come out third with 11.9%. So it's the same 3 queens, but just with slightly different percentages. Okay, so let's move on to the comments for this week, and we'll start with my Patreon comments. So my Patreon Max said, I liked this spin-off of the Snatch Game since it gave each person a spotlight. I don't agree with you, Max. We can still be friends, but I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. I did not like this personally, but I do agree it maybe gave them a bit more spotlight so it was easier, but I personally do not like this format. My Patreon Debs said, I actually didn't like the Snatch Game. It meant we didn't get to see the queens interacting and riffing off each other. I 100% agree. That was the part that I found the most annoying, was there's very few times where they could interact. It was more just talking to the judges. And I found that it got a bit boring after a while. And my Patreon Patty said, agreed about they appreciate trying new things, but this version of Snatch Game was not it. And said Fontana's shock when Godland didn't choose her, and then after the lip sync survival, her reaction, that was a bit much for me. We'll talk about that a bit more later, but there were quite a few comments in the Have Your Say poll about Fontana and her reaction as well. And we'll talk about that at the end of the video because there's a little bit of tea about that. So moving on to the Have Your Say comments, a lot of the comments were just saying things like this Snatch Game was a cringe fest and that there was no winner in this episode because it was worse than season 14 Snatch Game. I just don't think the queens were given a particularly great format. I can see why they chose to do a different format to try and switch it up, but I just think the execution was done really badly. So I hope they do not do this for future. I just want a normal Snatch Game. Someone said when Fontana fell, RuPaul was ready to send her home too, because RuPaul did not look very happy. And someone else said RuPaul's face after Fontana hit the ground, then hit that little dance, you in danger, girl. And then there's also quite a few comments talking about, I think it was more Godland winning, and some people said loud does not equal funny. And I loved Godland's Snatch Game character, but I do think that Sminty did slightly better. But let me know in the comments what you thought about this Snatch Game version and the format. Would you like them to do that again for another season? Or if not, do you want to go back to regular Snatch Game, or is there a different format they should try? Okay, so we're now going to move on to a little bit of light drama from UK versus the World to do with Melinda Verga calling out the judges. So as we know, Melinda was eliminated last week and became the first person to be eliminated from the season, which many people were upset with on social media and said that Melinda was robbed. Well, Melinda has since done an interview with Pink News where she talked candidly about her time on the show and appeared to call out the judges for harsh critiques. In the interview, Melinda was asked how it's been watching the season back. Melinda said waiting for the show to come out after they filmed it a year ago has been, quote, torture, and she's ready to move on from it. She then said, quote, in 2025, I wasn't well mentally. I'm going to be frank about that. It was a real struggle. That's not something that many people know because it's just something that I chose to deal with privately amongst my nearest and dearest. But she added that now that the show is out, she's started her healing. She added that she got sick when she arrived in the UK for filming, and she knows that people are going to say that she's making up excuses again, but she explained that she was worried that she was going to be sent home because she was sick. She then added that her struggle was very real, but they just didn't show a lot of the context, which was lost. She said, quote, then, with the design challenge, there were so many other things that I had to deal with off camera. I was spiralina, let's just put it that way, up until the lip sync moment, all the words gone. She also appeared to kind of call out the judges for being harsh, although it wasn't all aired. When asked if she was in agreement with the judging, Melinda said, quote, no, I wasn't. I'm not going to be sugarcoating that today right here, right now. I wasn't. Of course I wasn't. Oh my God, I'm still salty about that. I talked about healing earlier, and now I'm like, I wasn't. Maybe that's one of the reasons I still haven't watched the episode, because I don't know what made the cut. I do remember being told things that I was like, okay, that's just not needed. That's not necessary. Maybe you're going for a reaction here, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of that reaction. In the full interview, Melinda also talked more in depth about her experience on the show and some of the other things that she had to deal with. So I'll link to the full interview in the description if you want to know more. We're now going to move on to something that happened on the back of this week's episode to do with Fontana reacting to the backlash she got after the lip sync. If you've watched this week's episode, you'll know that after Fontana won the lip sync and she was saved from elimination, she fell to the floor and cried when it was announced, and she also did a little celebratory dance before going off stage. On social media after the episode came out, a lot of people said Fontana was being performative, but also disrespectful to Minty Fresh, who was being eliminated, because Fontana's reaction was taking the focus off Minty. People also mentioned that RuPaul did not look impressed by Fontana's reaction either. Fontana then addressed this criticism she was getting in a series of tweets. So Fontana posted a video clip of her reaction when she fell to the floor, and the caption was in Portuguese, but it's been auto-translated to English, so please bear that in mind. The caption said, quote, I did this lip sync while having a panic attack right after throwing up. When I asked to stay, it wasn't just because drag is everything I have, but because I'd invested absolutely everything to be there. I was under threat of deportation and didn't even have a place to stay. My life depended on that moment. That's why all this emotion. Beyond the anxiety and the panic, there was a real need to be on that stage. And it's not victimhood, it's just the reality of a Latina immigrant in Europe. She also posted a few tweets later on where she said that she wasn't ready to go viral like this and that her mental health and anxiety are not a joke. But people also don't know what she was going through, and she does not support any kind of hate. She also encouraged people to seek help if they are also struggling with mental health battles. And I just thought this was some important context to add and may explain the background of how she was feeling and why her reaction was what it was. And finally, we're going to talk about something that recently happened to do with Sminty Drop addressing some past controversial tweets. So, as we saw at the beginning of this week's episode, Sminty and Zahira got into a bit of a heated exchange with some of the other queens because Sminty and Zahira felt that they should have been in the top. After the episode aired, Sminty and Zahira got a lot of criticism on social media, with people saying that they are sore losers and that they were very nasty to the other queens for no reason. Sminty did address this in a tweet where she said, "I cannot stress enough that as soon as the cameras stop rolling after we all start getting shady, we literally clap together and say we ate that because we were intentionally making television. Like you see us fighting, but off camera we were having a key on the bus, lol." Sminty also tweeted saying, "She's so cocky for a B word that gets sent home this week. I guess Reddit rumors aren't gospel after all." Sminty then replied to a few critical comments on her Twitter post where people said her behavior was bad and that she was putting down her fellow competitors. However, Sminty just said that this person was obsessed with her and they should just book a cameo if they want her attention. However, in the wake of this criticism against Sminty, a Twitter user posted saying that they had commented on one of Sminty's posts saying, "Address the screenshots of you saying the N word and the C word," and apparently Sminty hid that tweet. They then posted some screenshots of tweets that Sminty had posted back in 2015 when she was 15 years old, although they have since been deleted. In the posts, Sminty uses the N word, and I assume that the C word being referred to here is Chinese, although I'm not sure if this is correct or not. However, it looks like Sminty had already addressed this back in 2020. Sminty posted 3 screenshots of long written posts that she had posted back in June 2020, where she had apologized for those old tweets from 2015. She said how ashamed she was, that she had educated herself since then, and apologized for the hurt she had caused. However, after the drama from this week's episode with people calling Sminty out for being rude to the other queens, these old tweets and this controversy was brought back up again, and it looks like Sminty decided to address it once again. A few days ago, Sminty posted these apology posts from 2020, plus another post that was recent. In the new post, which is quite long, so I'll just summarize it, Sminty said she'd already addressed and apologized for these controversial tweets back in 2020. She apologized again for the hurt she caused and that she takes full responsibility for what she said and knows how hurtful it was, and she does not support any kind of racism or hatred. In the tweet, she also said that she is going to step away from Twitter for a while to have a minute to, quote, detox from some Drag Race fan toxicity. As you can imagine, the reaction to this situation was mixed. However, from what I could see, most people seemed to support Sminty and said that she had already addressed this and apologized for it back in 2020, and she'd clearly learned from her mistakes, so she shouldn't need to address it again. And they said that it was just a few toxic or chronically online fans that were bringing this back up again for drama. But from what I can see, Sminty has not posted any more about the situation since then, so this appears to be the end of it. So we'll have to wait and see if anything more ever comes from this situation. But as I say in many of my videos, please be responsible with how you behave online and consume this type of content passively. And remember, it's really not okay to be hateful to the queens or anyone else. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say video for UK vs. the World Season 3, Episode 3. Let me know your thoughts on UK vs. the World Season 3 in general, and how did you feel about this Snatch Game, and do you think that Snatch Game needs to be axed, or do you still think it's a good challenge they need to keep doing? If you want to have your comment featured in these videos, please check out my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month, and it is an amazing way to support the channel, and you also get amazing other benefits, such as exclusive content that I don't post on YouTube, early access to the exclusive Patreon chat with me, as well as many other things, so please check out my Patreon and I'll put a link in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to my amazing Patreon members. Honestly, you are all absolute legends. I love you so much. Your support truly does make a massive difference, and I'm humbled all the time with just how lovely and supportive you are, so thank you so much for being part of the Patreon community. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people, and make sure you smash that subscribe button because it does make a big difference, and the more subscribers I get, it really does help the channel, so please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.